Yo bailo para alumbrar la oscuridad. Yo canto palpitar. Yo trato de manera mía controlar mis emociones dando pasos de aquí para allá. Yo bailo. Desta, thank you very much for joining us on Urban Impacto, our first interviewee. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I don't know if we should tell actually the public how many times we've actually had to do this interview.
It's so funny. It's so funny. I think it's fine. I think we can tell him quite a few times.
Yeah, I think everyone's adapting to the current circumstances that we're doing everything. Well, we're finding ourselves having to do everything virtually, accommodating to the COVID-19 side effects. But here we are. So for those of you who don't know you yet, tell us, who is Desta French?
Yeah, I'm an artist based in London. I was born here, but I'm of Colombian and Italian heritage, and I make music. I write songs.
What's your style? I know you're very soul R&B, but you've lately been fusing Latin rhythms because obviously that's your heritage. How would you define yourself as an artist? What type of artist are you?
Well, I mean, I think most artists would agree. Not all, but a lot would agree that it's, personally, when people ask me that question, I find it really hard to do that, like to define myself, because I'm constantly writing different styles of music, and I listen to a lot of different styles of music. So I wouldn't define myself like that. But if I had to, a lot of the music I've put out is very like R&B, like very 90s inspired R&B. More recently, there's much more of a Latin influence, and it's hard to place because I kind of, I was experimenting with a lot. So there's a lot of like música folclórica, but it doesn't sound like that. But there's like influences. There's I was listening to a lot of salsa. There's some salsa influences there. There's a bunch of stuff. So my music is like an amalgamation, I guess, of like kind of like Latin R&B. Let's call it Latin R&B for now.
Many artists don't like to box themselves, as a certain kind of sort of type of artist, which is fair enough. I mean, especially because music is it's constantly like evolving, and what's in at the moment, it might not be in 2 years' time. And obviously now that reggaeton and Latin music has gone mainstream, I think that's played would you say that's played or influenced experimenting with those Latin rhythms?
No, I don't think that's why. I think that's helpful in some degree, in some ways, but that's definitely not why. So growing up, that that's what I was listening to. That's like the first music I listened to growing up. When we were having like Holy Communion, family friends parties. It's salsa, it's cumbia, it's mapale. You know what I mean? It's like the little festivals. That's what I was exposed to. So it was always there. It was always there, and it was always going to come out. It's just a case of when. And as you know yourself, growing up here as a second generation Latino, you know that there isn't really that many. I didn't really have the resources around me because although that's what I was listening to culturally, it wasn't really what I was exposed to musically. So when I started making music, I didn't know Latin musicians. I kind of just didn't know where I was gonna how I was gonna include that. And then it just so happens that through my process and like traveling back and forth to Colombia a lot, just like meeting certain musicians and certain people, then that kind of just opened the door up, and it just made it, made the time right to start exploring that fusion a bit more. But no, it's not because Latin music's become popular. That was always going to happen. That's helpful because it means that there's more attention on it in general, even though it's still not as it's not as popular here yet, which is a bit tricky. But all in all, it's a good thing, but it's definitely not what made me do it.
It's your roots at the end of the day. And
yeah, like growing up, you know, I wasn't really looking at
how was it? I was just about to touch on that question. How was it growing up as a Latina here in the UK?
Like as a child, you kind of just adapt a lot. You just, I don't know, as a child, it's interesting because you always kind of know you're a little bit different, but it's not that, you know, you're different, but you can't work out why. Because it's not like I guess I don't look so different to a lot of the other people that would have been at my school, really. But I knew that like my lunch was going to be a little bit different to other people's. I knew I was going home to like, you know, just a different culture. My dad's Italian as well, so there was that mix as well. So it was like, it was literally, you know,
So do you speak
and you know,
Italian, or Spanish, Italian, and English?
I do, but my Italian's a bit rusty, and I speak Spanish, but I still make mistakes and stuff. So I always say that in my house, we didn't really speak one language. We just spoke a mix of 3 languages. My dad, if you hear him speak Spanish, it's so funny. Like, tú quieres ir para allá, vamos a hacer esto, like, and then my mom's trying to speak some broken Italian to their side when they were together and stuff. But yeah.
So what was it, that moment that led you to do music? When was it that you, at what age did you start making music, or did you discover that passion for music?
I think it's a really hard question because I wish I had one moment, but really it was just like growing up, realizing what was pulling me closer. So, you know, in school it would always be like plays, like musicals and plays and the choir. Like from that really young age, I've never been musically trained or anything. You know, I guess I didn't have that discipline on top of my interests, which would have been helpful potentially. But you know, it was always like plays and musicals and stuff. And then as I got older, it kind of just never stopped. You know, it was always like I would just be in the end of year musicals. And then I went to university and I did drama and Hispanic studies, which was like, I kind of just did it because, anyway, there's not bother talking about that. But yeah, so it's kind of always been there, and I've always sung, and I've always been songwriting without really knowing. Like I'd always come up with melodies and lyrics and really get into it. I remember like when I was walking around and stuff, but I guess I never knew that was songwriting, or I kind of just never thought that I could. I don't know, I just didn't put 2 and 2 together until I got into the studio one time, just after uni, with a friend of mine who I still make music with, called Jamal Hadaway. And then we just got in the studio. I'd already messed around with producers and stuff, just singing, but that was when like you know, I decided to take it seriously. So it's always been there. There's not a turning point. It's just always been something that like I've been drawn to, if I'm honest.
Basically a self-made artist, because you haven't really, you know, gone through the traditional route. You haven't really been, I'm assuming, vocally trained, or?
Nah.
What has been the biggest obstacle so far in industry? Well, for you as a musician, as an artist here in London, as a Latina artist actually here in London, what would you say has been?
Okay, as an artist in general, it's definitely for me been trying to balance my creative life with my like normal life, whatever, because it's so, like, anyone that knows me will know, like, I live and breathe it like all day long. Do you know what I mean? It's just something, and I think a lot of artists or just creative people in general might have the same struggle. But yeah, for me, it's definitely knowing when to like leave that to the side, because I'm always in that headspace of like
creating. You're always in a creating process.
You know, like, I think a lot of people would agree, like, I can't watch a film in the same way as other people, like, or I can't listen to a song the way. A lot of people have that, like producers that listen to a song, it's like they're listening out for different things. So I think I definitely need to find often just find the balance of when to just like whoop, switch off platforms, and more like finding an audience, like finding out where they are, because I know there's hella Latinos here, yeah. Like, apparently it's the 8th largest population in London at the moment. And I know that they're about, because I see them everywhere, but it's a kind of just like, I know what it's like growing up. It was hard to find each other. Like, it wasn't like I had loads of Latin friends. I had my cousin and her little group, and then I had my mum's friends' children, and we kind of used to hang around, you know? It wasn't like I had a gang. Like, My cousin did, and my cousin did though. I always thought that was super cool, and I'd go back into school, and she was like my older cousin. I'd be like, yeah, I went out with like my cousin and her friends. Yeah, like, you know, we were getting into like clubs and shit. It's not that easy to find. So I think once that is kind of more solid, then I think it will be an easier place for artists to just, you know, find that kind of that community that are like, I reckon I know what you're trying to do there. You know what I mean? Like, some people, when they hear Guajira, they're like, they hear it and they get it, and like it gives them a certain like nostalgic feeling.
When I was growing up as a kid, I think I was the only I was the only Colombian in the whole school. I think there was only like 2 other South Americans. There were Ecuadorians, but it's crazy. Like now, things have changed and things are different. There's a bigger Latin American community here in the UK.
But I still think like I did these interviews with these UK based Latinas. That's like a thing that I'm working on. It's called Chat in Latin. Took me ages to come up with that name. You'd be surprised how hard that was. But anyway,
you know, I love it. Chat in Latin.
You like it? You need to come and do the next one. It was really, babe, I got like goosebumps the whole time because so I invited these women to come and talk, and I spoke. It was like, it's intergenerational, so I had like mums talking with their daughters, and it was just really interesting to find out people's experiences. So like, you know, if you're born in, like, there was one girl, she was raised in 7 sisters, literally. So she was like, yeah, man, like I was always around Latinos, like I feel very fine, like, you know. And then there was other people, like this one girl that I spoke to, who's an artist as well, Carla. She's so sick, Venezuelan, and she was like, you know, I had no one. Like, it was a very white middle class area. There was no other, you know what I mean? Like, she literally had no reference anywhere, you know. So if you have that around you and then you don't have anything in the media, or then it's like you kind of just learn to just not pay that much attention to that stuff. Yeah, put it to the side. But you can't escape that, man. You know, like they're like La Tierra Llama, and I really think that's true.
Exactly. So who are your biggest inspirations, or your inspirations musically growing up?
Musically, there's so many. Like my mum was a massive Michael Jackson fan, so I love like Michael Jackson, Tony Braxton, a lot of like 90s R&B. I just love the sound, like a lot of the producers at those times, like Teddy Riley. Then like Latin wise, just lots of like really traditional music. I mean, I love urban music as well, don't get me wrong, and there's some really sick artists that I rate these days, but growing up it's got to be like Toto La Mocosina, do you know what I mean, like just Carlos Vives, like really kind of
folkloric
salsa, great salseros, all of that kind of stuff growing up. I would say.
So now currently, who would be your favorite Latin female artist at the moment?
Do you know what, like, oh, that's really hard, man. I can't. I'm really feeling this artist based in San Francisco called La Doña, and she's really cool. Have you heard of her?
La Doña, I can't say I have. What type of is she like Jessie Reyes kind of vibe?
No. Check her out. You'll really like her. She does this kind of like I don't know, it's got an urban aspect, but then she's Mexican and she mixes a lot of folkloric as well. And she's really cool. I like her vibe a lot. I'm really feeling her at the moment, but yeah, there's this like trap girl called Sofia Gabbana that I've been kind of listening to as well, who's quite cool. Yeah, there's a bunch, but my mind always goes really blank at this point.
Here in the UK, I know obviously there are very few female artists compared to, Latin female, urban female artists compared to obviously men. There are quite a lot of men representing the genre. Who do you have any collaborations in the pipeline with any other female artists here in the UK? Who are your favorites?
So there's an artist called Seychelles, who I think she's going to come on the show, and I really like her vibe. And yeah, we've got something planned, so we're going to hopefully get on something together soon. And yeah, I'm really excited about that because yeah, she's sick, and it's really nice and really refreshing and really important that we do see more Latin artists. So because it ain't gonna happen, like, do you know what I mean? Like, we kind of, there has to be a community there, and there has to be artists together, moving forward together, doing their thing. So I would like there to be more. So yeah, if anyone sees this and they're like UK based Latina artists who wants to
get in touch.
Yeah, man, I'm down.
Right, tell us about your music. So I know your videos, they rank up more than 1,000 views, most of them, and there's in fact one that racks up more than 1 million views. Tell us about that. How did that happen?
So I think you're talking about the colours.
Yeah, colours.
Yeah, so I was really lucky.
Shame, that's the name of the song, isn't it? Shame?
Yeah, it's Shame. So that's pretty, I mean, I would say that that's my, when I put that out, which was like a couple of years ago now, that was like the first song that I kind of, that was like the first song I think I feel like I seriously put out. But at the time, like, it was, I just put it up on SoundCloud. Like, this is before I put it out. I just put it up on SoundCloud, and it had like 300 listens. So it was like nothing. So when they called me, I was first of all really surprised, and just, I felt really lucky really at the time, because it was so early on in like my career putting out music. I've been writing for a minute, but yeah, so yeah, I just felt really lucky. It was a really, really amazing platform to go on, and it opened a lot of doors. It means that like a lot of producers were like, okay, cool, you've done that, let me work with you. So it just gave me that opportunity to be able to really carry on developing my sound with, like, you know, like, good people.
And okay, moving on to the more recent kind of songs that you've worked on, Guajira, which is I think it's my all-time favorite. I am obsessed with that song. Why Guajira? Guajira, we know it's a place in Colombia. Tell us what's the song about? Where did the name come about? Why Guajira?
So Guajira, that was like, I think it was like the second or third song that came during this period, where I was working with a producer called Deforzi, who's an amazing producer. He's a really good guitarist, and I was kind of exploring a different way of writing. I realized how much I love writing with like a guitar as a lead instrument, especially someone who's so good like him.
He the guitarist on the video?
No, that's another, no, he's not the guitarist in the video. I asked him to come, but Deforzi's a bit cool and mysterious, to be honest. That's my other friend. He's actually part of a duo called Cali with an X. They're like a funky house, like Colombian funky house duo, like, and they're really sick. They're going to do amazing things, and like, I'm glad I found them. They're really safe as well. Yeah, so we were just kind of messing around on the guitar, and then the Spanish bit came, like the kind of folkloric kind of sounding bit. Actually, no, maybe that was into the word. Yeah, it was just
that is magical. It's you really pulled it off. You la sacó el estadio with that bit.
Oh, thank you, babe. Thank you. So that means a lot to me. That I'm really proud of that song, actually, because I would say it's the one that most clearly embodies like a lot of the different influences. Like, it's very R&B, but then it's also it also feels quite like Latin. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't sound like anything else, which I personally makes me proud. So thank you so much.
Definitely.
But yeah, it was a song about like despecho, really. It's a song about heartbreak and like wondering if someone else would do the same for you if the situation was the other way around. You know what I mean? And just feel like you've run out of energy because you're just giving so much to something. And like, you can't even be sure if it would be the same the other way around.
So where does Desta French get her inspiration from? Is it real life events? Is it her personal story?
All of my writing and lyrics all comes from my personal experiences. Literally, I used to like write a little bit more about, oh, let me imagine this kind of thing sometimes, but really and truly the ones that really hit home, when I listen back to them and I'm like, that got me, is when it's directly from my heart, you know, directly from, like, even lyrically, sometimes you have different ways of writing, and I used to kind of not try and be too fancy. I can't explain it, but sometimes like simplicity in lyrics is just the most effective way, just to speak like literally as though you're speaking straight out of your heart. So I find when I've written something that feels like that, that's when I feel it the most.
How's the writing process? Do you literally, I don't know, does it just come like out of the blue, and then you're thinking, okay, let me just jog this down, I think this is potentially like a good song? Or do you sit down and like dedicate, you know, a day or two?
I think it's different with every song and in every experience, and depending on who you're working with. Sometimes I'll think of an idea, like a kind of concept for a song, like that could come from anything, like a sentence, or someone could say something to me like, man, you look good in brown, whatever it is, and
something that stays in your mind,
that has a ring to it, and then I'll write it down, and then I'll have that in my notes, and just that phrase will encourage a whole story, sometimes related to me in some way. It's really different, it really depends. Sometimes it's from the melody, sometimes, you know, you're working with someone and you hear a melody and the words just literally come like magic over the melody, and you're just like, well, there it is.
Are you currently signed to a record label, or are you an independent artist?
Yes, I'm independent. I've had the opportunity to sign certain contracts, but they just haven't felt right for whatever reason. So I just figure until something feels right, I can firm it.
Who would you love to have an Anglo-Latin collaboration with? But obviously I don't know where you would fit in, because you're both Anglo and Latin, if we look at it. But who would be someone you would aspire to collaborate with?
I mean, like big, because I really want to do a song with Crudo Means Raw. Do you know Crudo Means Raw?
Crudo Means Raw, yes, I've heard of them.
But yeah, big, I love Bad Bunny. Like, I just like him. So I'd want to do a tune with him.
I mean, he is very creative. I'm not going to lie. You have to, you know, give it to him. He's very creative, and I never thought I'd try to be a guy in a dress. I just never thought it particularly tickled my boat. But I don't know, something about when he was dressed like that, I was just like, I don't know why. He was very controversial opinion. Some would say that he is doing things in a different way, but then some wouldn't agree with what he's doing. But I know everyone's opinion is divided. When it comes to creativity, I give him a 10 out of 10. Desta French, is that your artistic name? Your stage name?
Yes, it is.
What does Desta French mean? Do you have French heritage?
No, it's nothing to do with that. I found out that I don't like calling it, it's weird calling it stage name because I identify. So I needed a stage name because my name was like occupied in some other ways. Kind of did like loads of research on like mythology. We really went like deep into it and like into the internet and was like mythology and fairies and fucking dragons, and like I just, you know, was having a bit of a field day, and then I came up with all these like different words and names, and I had like a list. And then I was with the producer that I still work with, and I was like, yo, what do you think of Desta French? And he was like, yeah, that's sick, Desta French, innit? And then I went back to research because I forgot to write next to it what it meant, and the meaning was like destiny. It was like the French diminutive or something of the word destiny. So then I was like, oh my god, it's destiny, that's me. So yeah, that's the story.
Tell us about your upcoming projects. What are you currently working on? I know you'll be releasing a song very soon.
So I have a song called Aguanta, which is the third single coming off of this EP called San Lazarus. Aguanta is coming out on the 5th of June. So I'm really excited about that. It's my first song that's fully in Spanish, my style Spanish. San Lazarus is dropping like early August. And that's going to have Guajira on it, Into the Wave, a few other songs. That's like the whole project together, like this kind of this new project of mine.
Where can people find Desta French? Where can they follow your music? Where can they keep up to date with, you know, the latest and have an insight into your life?
So you can catch me on Instagram at Desta French, on Facebook, Desta French Music. I don't have Twitter, unfortunately, but all the social media platforms, on Spotify, on iTunes, Desta French, you'll find me. Like, all you have to do is type in Desta French on the internet and I will come up. Boop.
Well, thank you very much, Desta, again, for being on Urban Impacto, for sharing your story as an artist, and for you know, for those people watching, female artists thinking of getting into the industry, what would your word of advice be for them?
If you feel the urge to, like, you know, showcase your heritage through your sound and through your music, I would say just don't be afraid to do it, because, you know, after you there'll be people after you, and after you there'll be people after you. And I think it's important to just show the generation that's coming that, like, you know, you could be who you are, and your creativity should show that and should express that. And you know, even if you do have like hurdles in the way, you know, it's going to be a bit harder for you maybe in the UK, just know that after you it'll be easier for someone, and you can have inspired someone. So I feel quite passionate about that.
Again, it's about, I guess, setting that foundation for the generations to come, for the future generations as well. As we mentioned before, growing up, we didn't have a reference as such, or someone we could look up to identify ourselves as a British Latina or a British Latino. Growing up, we had to look elsewhere and follow, you know, Latinos in America or in other cultures. So it would be nice to have a role model, un modelo a seguir here in you know, British born, from a Latino background. Do you think you're going to be that, you know, the artist that breaks through here in the UK? The first Latino, British born Latina that makes it?
I mean, why not? I think it would be nice, but I think I want to be able to make the art that I want, and know that that can be like a sustainable thing, or even just get heard. So like, if I can be one of the first people that like allow that to get heard, which is just my authentic voice really, then that'll make me happy. That sounds like.
But what do you aspire to? Where do you see yourself in 5-10 years down the line? What's your biggest kind of aspiration?
I want to tour the world, and I want to tour South America, because I think just finding that acceptance there, like when I've been to Colombia and like performed, like it's the best feeling ever. It's the feeling that they could accept you even though you're so different. Because listen, when I'm here with my like English friends, I feel the most Latina going, yeah. But the second I get there, I'm getting going like 2 minutes. No, but you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, I'm very like British. So to get that acceptance over there just feels really, really good. And to get the support on like Instagram and stuff, I get messages from like girls in Chile and in like Argentina and shit, and I'm like, that makes me so happy. Like that makes me, I don't know, because I just think if I could maybe potentially inspire them over there, and like they're inspiring me, because you know I'm looking back to my motherland for like inspiration. So it's a beautiful exchange. So I would love to travel South America and go on tour.
Right, Desta, so thank you very much once again for Urban Impacto. We wish you all the best in your upcoming projects, and hopefully we will have you in the future face to face. You keep delighting us with your music, with your talent.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Urban Impacto, for having me on. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Caro, for interviewing me, and yeah, hopefully we'll see each other on the other side.